What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team career mode, and we are here for round number 9 of season 6 of our Jaguar racing career. We are going to be at the Canadian Grand Prix this time, and I am very much looking forward to this one. For those of you who have not watched a previous season of my Team career mode, Canada is one of the tracks that seems to go the best for me. I've won here on multiple occasions. It is actually the scene of my first race victory on F1 23 back in season 2. No idea how we pulled that off. We had one of the worst cars on the grid at the time, but somehow the tyre strategy just worked out for us, and towards the end of the race I really just seemed to have unlimited pace to be able to get ahead of the cars that were around us. Last race, as you see, we had a mechanical failure. It was a control electronics failure, which was frustrating because we were looking on course to win or at least be on the podium in Spain, but unfortunately we had to settle for that DNF. Charles Leclerc came through from 12th on the grid to finish in 5th place, so he scored 10 points, extends his advantage in the Drivers' Championship. George Russell, I believe, came 2nd, so he closed up the gap at the top a little bit, but he still sits 11 points adrift of the Monegasque driver, and we're going to see if here in Canada we can close up to the two of them in the battle for the Drivers' Championship. In the first couple of races this season, I didn't score any points. Even though I finished the races, we just had really uncompetitive racing, and since then I've managed to recover a little bit, and we've been looking pretty good since then. It's been a very win or bust season. 8 races, I've scored points in 4 of them, and 3 of those have been wins. The only race where I've scored points and not won the race was Baku, where I came 4th, which was actually a pretty good result for me, considering how historically poor the Azerbaijan Grand Prix has been. So yeah, we were having a very up and down season so far, I would say, but the fact that we've had 3 wins has really done quite a lot to bolster our chances of winning the Drivers' Championship, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to keep this run of form that we've got going on here in Canada as well. Even though we have had a couple of DNFs as well, of course, in Miami and in Spain, which were both races that looked like we could probably win. Since then, we've in the last 6 races of the 4 that we've finished, like I said, 3 of them have been victories. So yeah, it's been pretty good for us lately, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue that here today at the Canadian Grand Prix. Maybe pick up a 4th win of the season in this early stage. Practice, now it doesn't look like it went well because I wasn't in the top 14, but I didn't do a run on the soft compound tyres. I did all my medium compound running early in the session. In fact, I'm pretty sure my fastest lap time was one of those ERS programs where you're incentivized to use less ERS. So yeah, really nothing in particular that is particularly worrisome. I was really enjoying how the car was handling. I've never felt like I was taking the final chicane as consistently as I was taking it in that practice session. So I was hoping that that would translate. As I've mentioned in a few videos recently, I have been slowly altering my setups a little bit, and that has been making all the difference in terms of the performance that we've been showing. We are instantly into the 108s here today in our first flying lap on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and we will go again now on a second set of fresh soft compound tyres. We were down in P3 and we had an okay run through the final chicane, but it wasn't quite good enough to allow us to improve our lap time, but very, very close to our first lap time. We end up finishing in P3 in that session. We are through into Q2 with no real headaches. And also only 200ths of a second off of Charles Leclerc, which is nice as well. Hopefully we'll be able to contend with him and Russell and others for pole position. Meanwhile, out in Q1, De Vries, Piastri, Hauger, Stroll, Joe and Gasly. Piastri having a really difficult season so far this season, I would say, compared to previous years where, you know, you'd think that he was good for at least a race win or 2 every season, maybe on a couple of occasions even getting himself involved in the championship fight. In season 5, I think it was, he was probably the driver that was closest to the championship fight behind myself and Lando Norris. So yeah, he's definitely a legit driver, but this season just seems to be struggling a bit more in that McLaren. Q2 now, and on a used set of soft compound tyres, we do our fastest lap of the weekend so far. It's a 108.8 just about. So that gave me a lot of confidence that there was a lot more lap time when I moved on to a set of fresh soft compound tyres, and you can see exactly that as we make our way to the finish line on those fresh soft compound tyres. We do a 108.4, and you may not be surprised to learn that was P2 in the session. Actually, I was expecting that would be P1 with the level of improvement we're showing there, but clearly someone has gone faster, and it's Max Verstappen doing a 108.0. I don't know if I have the pace to do a lap time like that, so maybe pole isn't as much of a given for me as I thought it was. Knocked out here, Sargent, Pourchaire, Sonoda, Doohan, Fittipaldi, Ocon. No particular surprises here, I would say. I know that the Williams and the Hasses are not completely foreign to making it through to Q3. In fact, pretty much all of those drivers I named have made it through to Q3 at least one occasion this season, but you could never tell who's going to show up, and it really is just a case of whoever performs the best on the weekend will make it through. There's basically no difference between the cars now, very, very minimal. So, it really is a driver performance competition at this point. Our banker lap on a used set of soft compound tyres was a 108.9, and now we make our way onto our final flying lap on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. We're already 5/10 up. We only need a 3/10 improvement, so unless we have a really bad run through the final chicane, which we don't, this is going to be pole position. And as we come on the run to the line, it's a 108.3, fastest lap of the weekend, and that is pole position. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite as fast as Max Verstappen's time that he did in Q2, but there we go.
With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves of our top three: Robinson, Perez and Lando Norris. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
Well, pretty happy with that. Charles Leclerc P5 as well. Hopefully he'll be able to fight maybe even for a podium from that position as well. And I think that this puts us in really good stead to win the Grand Prix, but we will see what we can do as we get into the Canadian Grand Prix.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. 2.7 mile circuit peaking at around 190 miles per hour, 2 DRS zones, 14 turns, tight corners, a narrow track, and the famous Wall of Champions. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Robinson lines up on pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Norris, Magnussen, Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, Liam Lawson, Albon, Deruvala, Sargent, Teo Pourchaire, Sonoda, Doohan, Fittipaldi, Ocon, De Vries, Oscar Piastri, Hauger, Stroll, Joe, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And we welcome Natalie Pinkham to the comment box once again. Nats, no weather issues to worry about. It is dry and glorious out there. Everyone can focus on the racing.
Well, the regulations aren't new anymore, but the teams and the drivers are still coming to terms with them. I firmly believe it's also track specific. We've seen some wheel-to-wheel racing throughout the year. Some tracks lend themselves better to it than others. I'd like to see it at every race in the whole season. Is that too much to ask?
Well, the weather looks like there may be a little bit of rain on the horizon. We're not quite sure, but it doesn't seem like it's going to last for too long. But just to ensure that I can get the maximum performance out of the car, I am going to be going onto these hard compound tyres to start off with. And that means that hopefully if there is some rain, we'll be able to take them to the rain and then switch on to whatever tyres we need to switch on to at the time to maximise our performance at that moment. But we are going to be leading away from pole position. No real issues here, I don't think, in terms of strategy or anything like that. I'm not concerned about the tyre wear. In fact, our tyre wear factor was a little bit lower than the expected average, which makes a change because usually I overdo it on the tyres a little bit. But now it's just about focusing, making sure that we get a good getaway on these harder compounded tyres and hoping that we can keep Perez at bay when we're on a slightly weaker compound than he is on. But we will see whether we're able to keep him behind or not, and we'll see what we can do as we get into the Canadian Grand Prix and the lights go out, and we've had a good getaway compared to Sergio Perez. That's about as good as we could have hoped for, really, given the difference in tyre performance. And yeah, we're going to be leading away through the first few corners, and hopefully this will just be the story of the race, and we'll be able to hold him off for the entire duration. I didn't look quite as supreme in qualifying this time around as I did in Spain. I actually out-qualified, I think it was Perez again, by about 1.2 seconds in Spain, if you haven't watched that video. I looked really strong, but then in the race I didn't seem to have the race pace to sort of translate that qualifying pace, which I was a bit surprised by, to be perfectly honest. I thought I would just kind of pull away and disappear, and I very nearly did, but I think it's quite hard when they get stuck in your DRS and you know, they are close enough. As Perez actually looks for a move up the inside at the hairpin. Is he going to go for it? Is he going to be able to have the traction up the inside? Not quite. So we do manage to keep Perez at bay for the time being, but yeah. I think it's difficult on a lot of these tracks. If you don't break out of that 1 second range within the first couple of laps, you are just going to be hounded by the car behind for lap after lap after lap. We bump into the wall of champions there, get a track limits warning for our troubles as well, so yeah, hopefully we won't do that too many times. 5% on the front right now because of that little tap. It's caused a bit more extra tyre wear, so we have to be aware of that too. And yeah, we'll switch to the replay camera now on lap 4. As you can see, Sergio Perez is looking to potentially make a move on me. Going to go down the inside into the chicane. Am I going to just punt him straight into the wall of champions here? No, I am not. That would not be very nice, but we have managed to keep him behind. But I think he's going to go for another move, as is Lando Norris. We're going to be looking at 3 wide here potentially. Lando Norris almost crashing into the back of Sergio Perez. I kind of swerved out the way there a little bit because I was banking on the fact that Lando Norris was going to do that, and I was going to see if I could try and capitalise round the outside, get ahead of both of these guys, and just try and drive off after that perceived incident had occurred. But unfortunately Lando Norris was just sharp enough to avoid it happening. This time we don't have such a big moment with the wall of champions like we did on lap 1, and that gives us a great run out of the exit of the chicane, round the outside of Sergio Perez, wheel to wheel with the Red Bull driver, and we are back up into P8, which is exactly where we want to be, making our way now onto lap number 13. And you can see that we are just starting to keep Perez at bay a little bit, keeping him behind, not having too many issues. I think if we can, you know, keep it clean, not bump into any of the walls, particularly the wall of champions, which of course I'm not immune to anymore. In seasons gone by, I obviously didn't qualify. I didn't meet the criteria to crash into the wall of champions because I was not a world champion. But now I am the reigning world champion with a number 1 on my car, and as a result, I definitely have an increased risk of crashing into the wall of champions and ruining my race that way. So we do have to be aware of that. The only other drivers on the grid that I think will be able to suffer the same fate are Norris, Russell and Verstappen. We have a terrible run through the final chicane there. Yes, we keep out the wall of champions, but we don't manage to keep Perez behind, and he overtakes us into lap 15. And so we're going to have to try and get that position back off him now. We've already re-overtaken him once this race. Can we do it for a second time? We'll find out. Here we are on the run down to the final corner on lap number 16, and we don't look quite close enough to go for a move on Perez, but it doesn't matter because we're not staying out. We're coming in to change onto a set of medium compound tyres. Sergio Perez staying out for a lap or 2 longer by the looks of things, and hopefully this will put us in a perfect position to be able to undercut the Red Bull driver and make our way back into the lead of the race without having to go for any overtakes. The overtakes are always the most difficult part of the racing, so if you can minimise the amount of those that you have to do, that would appear to be the optimal strategy. I'm sure a lot of people will probably be quite annoyed by that notion, for the simple fact that it doesn't necessarily provide the most entertaining racing. But at the end of the day, I am focused on winning a championship, not only for myself but ultimately for the team as well. That's the most important thing here. and that's what we're going to be aiming for. Sergio Perez, as you can see, not even really exiting the pits yet. I think Norris is going to jump him as well by the looks of things. And as we make our way onto lap 21, this is my former teammate Enzo Fittipaldi in that Williams now, having a pretty good season. You know, he's definitely shown some real flashes of pace this season. Him and Lawson looking like one of the stronger driver pairings on the grid, to be perfectly honest, but it will be difficult for him to really show his true pace here in Canada if he's having an engine failure in the back of his car like he is today. So unfortunately he will be out of the race, but no safety car or anything called. And well, you can see that having made my way ahead of Norris and Perez with that undercut that we've done, now it is really just a bit of a trivial affair for me, making sure that I keep hold of the lead without any real complications. The medium compound tyres obviously had a bit more performance in them in the first few laps of the stint. We're starting to get into that point now where the tyres are not really that much faster than the hard compound tyres, but they're still fairly even in terms of performance actually. So we're not looking under pressure. You might remember last time I won this race, we were doing I think we did a one stop where most other cars did a two stop, if I remember correctly, or it was something to that effect. And what it meant was that we were very far ahead after our pit stop phase. We were like 20 seconds ahead, but Liam Lawson was closing me down extremely quickly during that race, by about 1 or 2 seconds per lap, and we were very, very lucky not to be overtaken by him before the race was finished. So yeah, we ended up winning that one by just a couple of seconds. And I did suggest that possibly if there had been 1 or 2 more laps in that race, the race victory might have gone Lawson's way. Lawson, he's looked close to winning races on a couple of occasions, but he's yet to do it so far. And well, he's got himself into P4 in this race actually, but once again he will not be even standing on the podium, never mind winning the race. You can see the tyre wear now. Tyres definitely started to get away from us a little bit. Perez was catching us, but not really by enough to make me sweat or anything like that. So yeah, very, very comfortable race for us in the end. I would have loved to have shown you more of what happened in this race, but the honest to God truth is I basically showed you all the action that happened in this race. It was a very simple one for me, very well controlled. There were a few moments there where I was battling with Sergio Perez and thinking, perhaps this won't be as free a win as I thought it would be, but ultimately the strategy worked itself out for me, and we're going to come up to the line to win the Canadian Grand Prix, and that is our 4th win of the season. Very, very happy with that. Hoping that should close the gap to Leclerc and Russell in the championship quite significantly. Don't know if that will move me up a position or not. It depends on where those guys finished. But yeah, happy with the result and hoping we can keep the momentum going.
You can't fault the performance on track today. A well-deserved victory. So, Natalie, what made the difference out there today?
I feel consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
A show-stopping performance from the 3 drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
It was maybe not the most interesting Grand Prix that's ever happened, but I know that that's just the default voice line that they say whenever the owner-driver team wins a race. Yeah, I'm obviously very happy to get my 4th win in 9 races this season. Certainly seems like we're having a very strong comeback after those first couple of races where I looked absolutely nowhere. And yeah, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris completing the podium. He's having a bit of a resurgence this season, and I remain this season's only repeat winner.
So let's have a look then at the drivers' standings. Charles Leclerc, currently leading the championship standings, extends his lead even further with this result. Let's focus on driver of the day, Natalie Pinkham. Come on, who do you pick?
I have to give it to Robinson.
Let's move on to the constructors. The owner drivers team moved to the top of the table. Well, that certainly was an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
Well, we may not be leading the Drivers' Championship, but we are right in the mix now, I would say. 2 points behind George Russell, 15 points behind Charles Leclerc. All we need is 1 or 2 more good races, 1 or 2 more performances where we can get the better of Charles Leclerc, and yeah, we should be in the money. And there's a decent run of tracks coming up for me as well. No Austria, no Hungary this season, because those are tracks that I chose to omit from the calendar. So the next race, I believe, will be the British Grand Prix, followed by the French Grand Prix. Those are 2 tracks that, you know, they're kind of up and down circuits for me. I never really know whether they're going to go well or not. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I got my first home win in any F1 career mode that I've done on this channel, which was really nice. I got that last season, and I was immensely happy with that. I wasn't going to give that win up for love nor money, so I was glad to be able to take the victory in the rain, no less, as well. Very challenging conditions, but that's where I'm at my best, I guess. Yeah, French Grand Prix as well. Usually I get a decent chunk of points, but it's never going to be one of my strongest races. So yeah, should be another decent haul of points for us. I'm sure that Charles Leclerc will want to do well there, though, as well, because it is a circuit where a lot of his home fans will be attending, even if it's not, strictly speaking, his home race. It's very geographically close to Monaco, and I'm sure a lot of people who want to be cheering on Charles Leclerc will be coming to see him do well there. In terms of the Constructors' Championship, we currently sit 32 points ahead of Red Bull now, because we just keep managing to have races that are ever so slightly better than them. Yes, Spain was a bit of an anomaly in that regard. Both drivers of theirs on the podium, and our best finish was 5th. Meanwhile, I of course did not finish the race. Frustrating from my side, but you know, I was just pleased to see that Charles Leclerc actually managed to pick up some points to hold on to our championship lead, and as a result of that, I've managed to extend it a little bit here today in Canada as well. I don't know where this form has really come from. I know that obviously I said I lowered the difficulty a little bit. I am slowly starting to increase it again to match the performance, because I thought that it was a difficulty problem, but I'm starting to realize I think the issues I was having in those first couple of races were much more setup related than they were difficulty related, and especially since I've started altering my setups a little bit, I've been having a lot more fun around these tracks, and I think possibly I would have been winning, or at least a podium contender on the difficulty I was on before. So yeah, the difficulty is starting to creep back up a little bit again, so don't expect these consistent wins to last forever. In fact, you might even see me have a bit more of a struggle race in Silverstone, because sometimes that does tend to happen for me, but I'll try and, you know, maximize the setup to ensure that I can get the best possible result at my home race. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.